All right, for the 10 of y'all that want me to start an OnlyFans, that's for y'all. You're welcome. Um, let's go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room first. The whole Greg thing. So I know a lot of y'all are just going to be here to dislike this and leave a nasty comment. That's fine. Do what you guys do. Y'all will be gone in a week, if not sooner. If any of you want to go beyond surface level and dig just a little bit deeper, I've got about 10 years worth of uploads on here. You can get a sense of who I am on YouTube anyway, and my personality and sense of humor. No requirements, no obligations. But if anybody wants to, it's there for that. I made the video. It is what it is. I'll stand by that video. It's there. So let's talk about genetics. As much as I hate the subject, it's stupid to even think about, in my opinion. So on the Mog video that Greg showed a little snippet of the thumbnail and me benching 535 pounds in that video, I put average genetics. Yes, that is absolutely clickbait. If you think that makes me a horrible person or a bad person or whatever, go ahead and think that. Greg goes on and on and on about his elite genetics. I thought it was funny to put that in there. Again, there's a playlist on my channel with the Mog videos. Those are very much tongue-in-cheek for the most part. If you want to go back and look at those. If not, and just judge me at surface level, again, do what you do. So I've never said my genetics are average, quote unquote. I've generally been on the side of my genetics are probably above average for strength and power output, mainly strength. Let's define that. This is not for bodybuilding. I don't know shit about bodybuilding. So if Greg's elite genetics are in reference to bodybuilding as well, then he can have that. I don't know anything about that. But we're talking about, strength power. So you combine, again, I probably have above average. Elite, I am definitely not. And we'll go into that. But let's say above average. In what percentile, who knows? Again, it would appear on the internet, especially, in some of those threads yesterday, that there's either shitty genetics, or there's either elite genetics or shitty genetics. There's no in between. But there's a big fucking in between elite and shitty. Like, these are two opposite ends of the spectrum. There's so much middle ground in there. And again, we're just, strength and power. We're not even going to go into, for cardio purposes or, things like that. But there's too much emphasis on genetics anyway. But I let's say above average, and I've got a negative ape index. So my arms are shorter. My wingspan is shorter than my height. So that does make for, being able to bench press better than most with my build. I've got what Bromley calls a Dachshund build. A lot of people also refer to it as a T-Rex build. So I've benched over 500 pounds in 4 different federations in powerlifting, on kilo plates, on standard plates, on hundos, on Eleiko bars, on Ohio power bars, on Texas power bars, drug tested, etc. And that is an elite feat. Like, we will say that benching 500, regardless of weight, regardless of drug use, is an elite feat. However, you do not have to have elite genetics per se to accomplish an elite feat. In this case, in terms of strength and power. So even for Greg, he benched, let me get this right. He benched over 500. What was he? 198, benching over 500 pounds. And of course, he used drugs to help him get there. Obviously, he had to put in work and stuff to get there as well. I'm not going to take away the work that was required to get there. But would he have bench pressed 500 without drugs? His best raw bench was 529. So, doubtful. Doubtful he would have benched 500 without drugs. I don't know his complete training history. I don't know maybe if he didn't focus on bodybuilding and focus more on powerlifting, whatever. I don't know his whole life story. So maybe he still could have at some point if he made different decisions in his life. I can't. That's all speculation. With me, I've benched 500. My lightest body weight benching 500 in a meet was 270 and a half pounds, and I benched 501 and a half. So me at 270, I was not sloppy fat. Maybe by my standards, maybe by your standards, I was sloppy fat. I certainly wasn't lean. I certainly wasn't jacked looking. Like if you would have saw me out in the streets or something, you wouldn't think there goes a 500-pound bench presser. But I put on weight. I put on body weight to bench 500 pounds. My first meet, I was 236, and I benched 424. And my second meet, I was 275, and I benched 457. And this was like half a year, 7 months apart. So, I gained a lot of weight there and didn't get a whole lot on bench press, but, then, I had to put in some more work, obviously. My first official 500 bench in a meet, I was 288. And then I dropped down to 270 and benched 501 as a 275er. But anyway, it required me getting big and not aesthetically jacked big. My biggest bench press on a meet was 525 at 304. As well as my biggest squat was at 304. My biggest deadlift was at 300. My biggest gym bench press was 550, and I was like 312 pounds. So I got big. Like I had some things going for me, right? I've got the short ape index or the negative ape index, and I probably have good strength building genetics. But I was willing to put on ugly fucking weight and not be aesthetic at all, not be jacked looking, not be physically impressive looking. But I lifted my weights, I did my cardio, I ate all the fucking food coming and going, and I did all this in the name of absolute strength. So, elite genetics, I don't really think so. Better than average, I'll concede. But like I went to high school at Lakeland Senior High School, class of 04. When I was there, the Pouncey twins were there. Chris Rainey was there. Ahmad Black was there. Those four guys, all from the same high school class, they were like 3 years behind me, got drafted in the NFL. You talk about elite genetics. If the NFL, if the NFL paid nothing and powerlifting paid NFL salaries, all the records, all the top 100, all the top 1,000 lifts, etc., would be way higher right now. That's that in my terms, that's where elite genetics comes from. Or where they end up. You do not have to have elite genetics to be elite among society. You do not have to have elite genetics to be elite in the gym. You need to put in work and know that it is going to take a long time. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to bench press 405, overnight. You're not going to squat 500 pounds overnight. You're not going to be 200 pounds with abs overnight, okay? Some of these numbers, some of you will never hit, but you need to not have that in your head. You need to be chasing those numbers if that's your goals. If your goal is to be 200 with abs, you need to be doing everything possible to become 200 with abs. Maybe you get there. You probably get there. Some of you won't get there. But if you spent a decade chasing that 200 pound with abs goal and it wasn't in your cards, you're still probably going to be extremely jacked and in way better shape than the next guy. All right. And that's my whole thing with the genetics is I don't like to talk about them. I don't want to focus on them. You're dealt the cards you're dealt. I can go online and find a bunch of people that bench more than me, that squat more than me, that deadlift more than me, that look better than me, that have a bigger wiener than me, etc., etc. They're all out there. the thing with lifting and the elite feats in lifting, we're not, the entirety of society is not pursuing lifting. And I know somebody's going to say, oh, well, that's because they genetically don't want to, so you've already got a genetic advantage by simply wanting to do something. Y'all will pick every little thing, and that's fine. But there's guys, again, there's linemen in the NFL who bench mid-500s who don't train their whole lives to bench press, to be stronger at powerlifting. They do this as supplemental exercises for the sport that, provides for them and their family. And there's an absolute slew of linemen, linebackers, probably a running back or two, maybe a tight end here or there in the NFL that can bench press 500, and that wasn't their life goal. That was just where they landed, training and something to supplement their sport. So, again, my whole thing with genetics is you don't know if you have good genetics, great genetics, elite genetics, shit genetics, until you put in a decade worth of training, dieting well, staying relatively injury-free, sleeping well, etc., etc. Do all those things, and then you can say, if you don't, hit whatever goals you have, you can speculate at that point what your genetics may or may not be. But not thinking about, you can't help it, so it's not even worth thinking about. I think Greg sets the bar way too low with what's genetically elite. He did the one thing with, saying you're genetically elite if you can. I think it was bench pressing 365 at 181. I do not think that's genetically elite at all. It doesn't require you being genetically elite to hit that. There's a lot of people that are going to fall in that average to slightly above average range that if they put in the time and effort, would certainly be able to bench press 365 at 181. Not everybody, because I go, oh, you just think everybody can do it. No, not everybody, of course. But that's not reserved for only the genetically elite. That's absurd. So if anybody stuck around this far, thank you. If any of you Greg fans that were shitting on me decided to give me a chance, that's great. Thank you as well. For the ones who don't, who are just going to continually shit on me, enjoy your week of shitting on me. It was nice to have you around. Peace!